Hello, my nerdlings! If you're new here, my name is Nikki. Welcome to my channel where we get nerdy. Today I am finally going to upload my review of Empire of the Vampire. So, some of you may know, some of you may not know, this book was an intimidating book for me. It is thick, it's one of my first adult fantasies, and it's a vampire book. And I typically do not do vampires at all. So, this review, I'm going to structure it with a summary, my evaluation, and recommendations based off from my reading. Okay? So, to summarize Empire of the Vampire, this is like I wouldn't say a duo timeline, it's like a 3 timeline. There's like the modern day, where Gabriel has been arrested and is imprisoned for the murder of the Forever King. This is not a spoiler, it is literally in the synopsis. Then there's a timeline of where he was a young man, where he first gets brought to Saint Michon and into the Brotherhood for the Silver Saints. He's like 15. And then there's like adult Gabriel that hasn't killed the Forever King, but has been through some stuff and questions his entire life up until that point. Like, there's been some stuff that goes down that has impacted the man that he has become. He is what they call a Silver Saint, so he is half vampire, half human. And there's only male Silver Saints, and their whole job is that they go to Saint Michon to be trained to hunt down vampires. And he has some of the vampire qualities in him, like super strength, or it depending on like what vampire bloodline you're from, depends on your special ability. We don't know what vampire family he's from. Or I'm not going to spoil that for you. Like, I know, but you don't know. So, he has some special abilities that make him strong and can fight a vampire where a normal person wouldn't be able to. So, that's Gabriel. There's different, it flops between the timelines, but there's different stuff going on in it. So I can't like really tell you what it's fully about without spoiling it. I do know that book 2 is, I believe, currently getting edited by Mr. Kristoff. I know he just posted on Instagram that he got his tattoo for book 2. So that means it should be coming hopefully fall of next year. So Gabriel is a half vampire, half human that hunts vampires to try and save the world. And the problem is that they live in a world where the past 29 years have been an eternal night. The sun set and never re-rose. So the whole, well, vampires only hunt at night because the sun, not a thing anymore. So, my evaluation of this book, what worked. I have my notes right here, so if you see me looking over. The plot. I think it was a new take on vampires, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I was over sexy, sultry, seductive vampires. I wanted the murderous type vampires, the type that like curdle your blood, make it so you don't want to sleep, that type of vampire, and that's what I was getting. And I was liking the 3 timeline storytelling because it kept my interest. Like, I know he gets to this point, But what the hell happened between this Gabriel that's 15, this Gabriel that's in his 30s and completely jaded and hates absolutely freaking everything, and old man Gabriel who seems kind of content and like have accepted his fate? You know, like, how do we get all three of these? There's quirky one-liners. It has some great one-liners in this book. Some amazing quotes. There's one that someone says, it says, I am not a princess, I'm a fucking queen. And I'm like, yes. Yes, you are. There's a quote that it says, rather live one day as a lion than 1,000 as a lamb. Like, there's some one-liners that really stuck with me and I really liked it. There is some goofy things. And Jay Kristoff's ability to make up his own swear words is just great. Very creative insults. At one point, syphilitic whore was used, and I'm just like, hey, never heard that. I might need to start using it. Like, it was great. There's the characters also with this book. This is what I think was a upside. There's some that you love, there's some that you loathe, and there's some that you hate them so much that you like them. Does that make sense? And there's some that, like, you start off like, I can't fucking stand this character. He's absolutely terrible. Just kill him off, please. And then you learn more about that character, and then you're like, oh, don't kill him off. Just kidding. Don't do that, Mr. Kristoff. Please, please, please leave him alone. Right? So that's what I'm enjoying. Like, kind of like when you were younger, like you hated Professor Snape, and then once you got older and realized who Professor Snape really was, you started to like him a little bit more. But then there's like those Dolores Umbridge characters that is worst of the worst, and you just freaking loathe them. You cannot wait for them to die. You root for them to die, and it's just great. And then you have those other characters that you absolutely love, that are just beloved. They're like, you know, Gandalf or Legolas or Gimli. Like, you just love them so much, you don't want anything to happen to them. What I didn't think worked. So some of the structure really bugged me. There was parts in it that you didn't know which point of the timeline you were in that chapter until you got further and further into the story. Really, Barnaby? One moment. So that was kind of what really irritated me. Like, I didn't know where I was with Gabriel, like which Gabriel I was with, until I was further into a chapter. That bugged me. But other than that, I didn't find much wrong with it. Writing style. Okay. I had to look this up because I didn't know how to describe this in a way that it would make it sense to everybody. But the consensus seems to be that it's Interview with a Vampire with Name of the Wind. Like, it's a man telling his story, like in Name of the Wind, but he's not willingly telling his story. Like, he is being interrogated as the story gets told. So, kind of Interview with a Vampire. Still like the not nice vampires, like Interview with a Vampire, right? Subgenres and tropes. Romance, maybe? Like, there is some sexy scenes. And there is a love story, but it's not like, bam, love story. It's not Twilight that, you know, love story is like force-fed to you. But there is a romance a little bit, and there is some smut. And I will tell you that Jay Kristoff is the first man I have read smut that knows how to write smut. Which I found out, he actually went to his wife's book club and asked all of the women to bring their favorite smut scenes to him. And next thing he knew, on his coffee table, there was like a stack of books, like 15 to 20 books with color-coded tabs on why the smut scenes were good. And that's how he wrote his smut between all of his books. So, like, he does it really beautifully, but really raunchy at the same time. So I recommend it. So I guess subgenre, like romance-ish, maybe like a teeny bit. And then for a trope, I don't think there's the chosen one trope. There's definitely like Gabriel, the main character. He's very morally gray. He's kind of jaded. Partway through the book, he becomes very jaded. A found family, I could say found family is definitely a trope in here. That's all I can really think of. But I'm not really good at like picking out tropes unless they're blatantly obvious. Emotions that it left me with. What type of emotions I had once I closed this chonker of a book and how I felt. It was a roller coaster. I don't know how else to explain it. It was a roller coaster. I loathed parts, like certain characters. I loved other characters. There were some scenes that I was on the verge of tears. There were some scenes that I laughed my ass off. And there were some scenes that you just jaw dropped, hit the floor, did not see that coming. So it was all over the place. And once I finished reading it, I did not pick up another book for months because I was still trying to, like, every time I picked up a book, I was trying to find that story again, like find that feeling again, and I wasn't getting it no matter what. So I just stopped reading for a bit and then started back up and finally pulled myself out of my slump. But it was so hard. So hard. Was the ending satisfying? Yes and no. Yes and no. It's the first of a series, so did I get that closure I wanted from, like, that you would get with, a standalone? No. But for a first book in a series, was it a satisfying ending in the sense that it makes me want to pick up the next book? Yes. Does that make sense? It definitely didn't have a shitty ending. That's for sure. The ending definitely grabbed me, wanted me to read more, wanted me to keep going, but it was not shit. And that's my problem with some books in series. Like, the first book ends and it's like I could care less to know what happens in the rest of the story. In Empire, I want to know what happens. Like, I'm invested on Gabriel and everybody in this book, in this series. So I guess that's my evaluation of it. And number 3, recommendations. In this section, I'm going to talk about my star rating and recommendations that are similar. My star rating, it was a 5-star. This is probably going to be my number 1 book of the year. I mean, I've already bought a second edition, a second special edition, that black with the silver right there. That's another edition of Empire. I have this one. I've asked my husband to get me a special illustrated, full color illustrated version from Waterstones. And I don't care that. I mean, I'd have 3 of the same freaking books. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I named my 3rd child after Gabriel. If that tells you anything, should tell you how much I love this book. Who do I think would enjoy this book? People that enjoy killing vampires, like the murdery vampires, the scary vampires, the cliche vampires. Like, yes, these vampires are, I wouldn't even say the vampires are sexy. It's the Silver Saints are definitely sexy. So they're half vampire. Does that count? But, like, I'm talking about the bad guys. Our villains in this story are the murdery vampires that are, they're gonna scare the bejesus out of you. There were some scenes that definitely I had dreams about. But I'm a wuss when it comes to scary stuff, so take it what you will. And people that like a found family trope. This is LGBTQ plus representation. There's some disability representation, not in the main character, but in a side character. So that's nice. There is a lot of talk of like a religion, but it's not like a Christian, fantasy type religion. Like it's not like the Holy Bible religion. It's like its own religion type of thing. And so don't let that deter you. Like, yes, religion's a big portion of it in one part, but eventually the religion part kind of drifts away. I hope that makes sense. Comparative titles. So I had to look this up because I didn't know what to compare it to other than Interview with the Vampire and Name of the Wind. So I typed into Google comparative titles to Empire of the Vampire. And what I got for people that have read this and also liked it, read this. And Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. And Grave Mercy by Robin Lefevers. Yeah. So, those are comparative titles. I honestly also, now that I've started reading Nevernight, I would say Jay Kristoff's Nevernight is a very comparative title. It's his other adult fantasy work, and I can see some where Mia and Gabriel would kind of hit it off. So that's my review of Empire of the Vampire. I say 5 stars, highly recommend. But just know that there are murdery vampires and there are parts where it can be a bit gruesome. Those are my trigger warnings. So, remember, until next time, you are loved and you are valid.